Hello everyone, welcome back to the part 2 of the story, The Smiling Gift from the River. If you still haven't watched the part 1 of this story, then go and watch it now and come back here to watch part 2. Okay, let's continue. When Julie was fishing, she heard someone screaming. So she picked Jade up and hurried following the screaming. To her surprise, she saw a young handsome man whose leg was hurt badly and screaming in pain lying in the exact place where she met Jade. He saw Julie and asked her for help. Julie stared at him for quite some time because he felt very strange and new to her. But however, she realized that he was in so much pain. So she told him to stay there, and then she hurried home and took some medicines and first aid kit and hurried back to the river with Jade. When she came to the river, she saw him lying on the ground. She fetched up some water and she sprinkled it on his face, and he opened his eyes and saw her. She bandaged his hurt leg and smiled at him. She felt protective around him. He smiled back. Then she asked, "Where do you live?" "Next to your house," he replied. "Do you know me?" she asked. "Yes," he answered. Now Jade was observing every kind actions of his mom and was thinking something very deeply, staring at them. The man thanked Julie and asked her name. She told her name and asked his name. He told her his name was James. He asked about Jade. Then she said his name was Jade and he was her son. He could not believe she had a baby at this young age, yet he didn't show his surprise to her. He tried to get up, but he couldn't. So she helped him to get up. James picked Jade up and she helped him to walk. Thus they reached Julie's home. Julie asked him where his house was, and he led the way and she helped him get to his house. They reached his home. Seeing them, James' mother came outside and asked, "What happened, James?" He explained everything, and James' mother and he thanked Julie and asked her to come inside. She and Jade went inside of James' house and sat on a chair. James' mother inquired about her and Jade. They both were talking and James was listening. Some hours passed and James' mother brought some fruits and sweets and gladly gave it to her. She received it and went home with little Jade. They reached home. Little Jade kissed his mother and asked her to tell a story. She told him a story called The Mysterious Lonely Cry. When she finished telling the story, Jade asked, "Mom, did you live alone like the girl in the story before I was born?" Julie didn't know what to say and said, "No." "If so, who did you live with?" asked little boy. "With my father," said Julie. "Where is he now?" asked Jade. "He died," said Julie. "I'm sorry, Mom," said little boy and hugged Julie. Few months passed. One day morning, Julie woke up early and did her chores early and cleaned the home. Then Jade woke up and saw his mother on garden and ran to her. He screamed, "Good morning, Ma." "Good morning, Jade," said his mother. He saw Julie in the garden watering the plants. He asked, "May I water the plants too?" "Yes, but not before brushing your teeth," answered Julie. He said, No, later. Now let's water the plants." Julie looked at him and said, "Now go and brush your teeth now." He ran into the house and rushed to the bathroom. Julie smiled. After brushing his teeth, Jade came outside and took the kettle from Julie. Then Julie taught Jade to water plants. Then the rain started to pour. Julie picked up Jade and ran inside. But Jade wanted to play in the rain. So he asked Julie, But she didn't allow him because it was raining heavily. Suddenly, lightning flashed and thunder boomed. Jade was terrified. Julie closed the ears of Jade. Julie covered Jade with a blanket. He laid on her lap. He asked why the color of the rain is white. She said it was the creation of God and God is the one who created everything. Then he asked many questions about plants and their colors. After many hours, the rain stopped and he fell asleep. Next Sunday, Julie and Jade went for fishing. Julie taught Jade to do fishing. They talked about birds, water, and all the trees around them. They saw James coming to them. James waved at them, and they waved back. Then they began to discuss many things. Jade stood up and started running in the middle of talking. James and Julie chased after him. Jade hid behind a tree. They found him. They spent much time playing and hiding there. When they returned home, Jade asked James to join them every Sunday for fishing. James agreed. At that night, Jade told Julie that he had a very good time with James. Julie nodded. Julie agreed that James was a very good friend. Next Sunday, like they agreed, James joined them with a backpack on his back. When they reached the river, Jade asked what was in the backpack. James smiled and took a box out of his backpack and showed it to him. Jade asked what it was. James replied, "It is a chessboard. Chess is a board game of strategic skill for 2 players," he continued. Jade was excited and asked James to teach him to play. James taught him the rules of chess. Julie also paid attention and learned to play chess. They spent many hours playing chess and then they returned home. This time, Jade asked James to come to his house the next day to play chess. James agreed. The next day, James taught Jade every rules and tricks. Every Sunday, James and Julie taught many things to Jade. Day by day, Julie felt very protective of James, and one day, Julie shared her past life with James. Most importantly, she told him how she met Jade. Many years passed. Jade grew up. He started going to school. His passion for chess grew as he grew older. Every teacher liked him because he was an intelligent and clever boy. Also, he was a very kind boy, so many students also liked him. He always makes Julie happy. Julie and James were still best friends. Still, they never stopped fishing every Sunday. One day, Julie was very ill and unable to do anything. At that time, James and his mother took good care of Julie and Jade. As days passed, Julie's health was getting worse and worse. It made everyone sad, especially Jade. Her dreadful dream has come true. She was very worried of Jade. Jade skipped school and spent more time with Julie. He and James did everything they can to help Julie. She was getting weaker day by day. One night, Jade asked Julie, "Mom, do you want anything?" "Yes, dear, I want only one thing," replied Julie. "What is it, Mom?" "I want you to be happy no matter what happens to me. You should live your life to the fullest. Always remember to be humble and to help others in need." "Yes, Ma, but why are you telling this now? Are you gonna leave me?" asked Jade. "No, son, but we don't know what the future holds for us. But we must be ready to accept anything. You should never lose your hope and have faith in the future. Then you'll definitely succeed." "Yes, Ma." "Keep in mind, son, that the helping one will always be the helped ones." Then she kissed Jade on the forehead and said, "I love you and always will." Jade held her hands and cried, saying, "Ma, promise me you will not leave me here. If you leave me, I'll go with you. Julie raised her voice and said, No, my boy, you should live. You must live your life no matter what happens. Jade couldn't hold his cry back but cried loudly. He couldn't buy it. He couldn't bear the loss his mother is talking about. He felt helpless. He stayed up all night crying. Julie comforted him and he slept. Next morning, Julie made Jade to go to school. He went to school unwillingly. He was not attentive as he used to be at school. He was not focused on anything. He always felt distracted at school. So his teachers asked him why he was distracted and why he didn't go to school for 2 days. He told them that his mother was sick and explained his situation. His teachers felt bad for him, so they helped him financially. Also, every student and his friends gathered around him and asked if he needed any help. He told them to pray for his mom. When he came home, Julie's condition was so poor, he couldn't help crying. He dropped his backpack and ran to hug her. He kissed her. That whole day until he reached home, James' mother was with Julie. She was the one who took care of cooking. She helped a lot. She and James supported Julie and Jade. Jade sat near Julie. She opened her eyes and saw him. He stared back. Julie said in a low voice, You should pray to God every day. He'll bless you if you're faithful to Him. When I was faithful to God, He was faithful to me and gave you to me because He loved us both. She stopped talking after telling this because she couldn't speak after this. He nodded. James came in at that time. He told Jade to go do his homework. When Jade refused, James forced him. Jade left. James sat near Julie. James tried to comfort Julie, but he himself was discouraged. Then how could he encourage others? Julie said, I have something to tell you. That's it, guys. That's it for part 2. If you want to know what happened next in Julie's life, like and subscribe to my channel. If you like it and wanted others to know about the story, then share this video with your friends. I'll see you guys in the next part.